hesitate to raise your hand or unmute. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about the role of a realtor. It's very, very important to have a realtor in your life when you're making this big transaction. But just a little bit about myself before we get started. I'm a graduate of UNC Chapel Hill, and then I got my master's at Meredith College, wife and mother of three. I was saying that I'm actually moving my youngest into college tomorrow, so kind of a bittersweet moment for that. In a previous life, I was an HR rep, and I've been a realtor since 1997. So that's all that experience that Larissa was referencing. I'm the broker owner of Make Your Move, Inc. I've had my own firm pretty much from the beginning. Love to travel and absolutely love what I do and working with first-time home buyers or anybody in the real estate market buying a home, because it is always such a pleasure. I have a team of realtors that work with me. So I just wanted to show that the realtors that work with my firm. So it's not just me. And I always like to start out by showing this little brief video about why you need a realtor. This is a little clip from the movie called Moving. This came out in 1988, which is actually the year I graduated from high school. So dang, I didn't switch this one. I'm actually not going to show this clip because I have an edited version. But in this movie, I always tell people this is actually the reason why you need a realtor in your life. When I started in 1997, the real estate contract, the offer to purchase and contract, was 3 pages. And I'm not sure if Larissa, did you actually email those documents that we usually do? Did you send them to them? If not, you can send them. You're on mute. So if she didn't send them, she can send them to you. But our contract, when I first started, was 3 pages, and now it's 15 pages. And just a little bit about this little clip from the movie. And I said, well, the reason I say that it's the reason that our contract has gone from 3 pages to 15 pages. But in this movie, Richard Pryor's character has lost his job in New Jersey, and they're relocating to Boise, Idaho, and they're working around with the sellers of this home. And the seller they'll go, I love the windows, and he'll go, we're taking them with us. I love the pool, I love this, and they'll go, we're taking them with us. And sometimes he'll say just kidding, and sometimes he won't. And then when they get back to their house, everything is gone. And of course, it's extreme comical example, but that's the reason our contract is so long, because the real estate commission tries to cover everything that you can think of in that contract. And once you get a sample copy, you'll be able to see what I mean, because it does itemize everything, or attempts to itemize everything that has to do with the purchase of a house. So if you haven't seen the movie Moving, you can find it, and you can do Richard Pryor. It's a little bit kind of calm, Richard Pryor, but if you can do Richard Pryor, it's definitely worth taking a look at. So why do you need a realtor? Someone to represent your best interest, balance the emotions. Buying a home is really one of the biggest purchases that most people will make in their lives. And so it can be an emotional process. And I'm sure you're probably all aware that with this right now, it's definitely a seller's market. So it can be even more emotional. So your realtor should be here to kind of help you walk through and deal with those challenges that come up, walk you through the process, show you homes, both existing and new construction. And it's very important, if you're even considering new construction, to make sure that you take your realtor with you the first time, because builders nowadays are saying if you come out, even if you're just kind of glancing around without a realtor, they're not going to be willing to pay that realtor on your behalf. And so therefore, you might, if you wanted representation, you would need to pay your realtor. We'll also handle your negotiations. And imagine with a 15 contract, there's a lot of negotiations in the process. And in addition to that 15-page contract, there can be several addenda that go along with it. So your realtor should be able to help you through that process. And it's the best free thing out there. I usually believe in the motto that you get what you pay for. But in the case of real estate, we're actually now paid by the listing agent or by the seller. And so when you see signs in the yard, that agent has contracted with that seller to sell their home. They've agreed to pay them a certain amount of commission. And in turn, that agent has agreed to split that commission with a buyer's agent that represents you. So in this instance, most buyers agents do not charge a full commission. There may be some minor fees, but for the most part, it's the best thing that you can get for free or having paid for by someone else. So the document that you will get when you first start working with any real estate agent should be working with real estate agents. And it's not a contract, so don't be afraid to sign it, but it just goes over the different types of agency within that there are. And there's three types. There's a seller's agent, buyer's agent, and dual agent. So as I mentioned, when you see those signs in the yard, that's a seller's agent. If you work with me to purchase a home or some other realtor to purchase a home, that's your buyer's agent. And then the third type is dual agent, meaning that say you just call someone from the sign and that person ends up representing you and the seller. That can be a dual agency situation. And you always have the right to say, yes or no, I don't want a dual agent, or I want exclusive representation. Those are things that that you can do. So you don't have to accept dual agency. I typically in my firm would do something called designated agency, where as if, for instance, I'm representing you and you find a house that my firm has listed, I'd have someone else represent the seller so that there's some separation and you can feel comfortable with make sure you're getting representation. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've said so far? I don't want to go too far in there. You can raise your hand, come off, or put something in chat. Okay. Like I said, feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. So we'll move on. So I hear somebody, sounds like somebody's come off chat. Let me come off mute. Okay, so we'll move on. So steps to purchasing a home. I commend everyone here, and I wish it was a little bit more interactive, that we were able to be a little bit more interactive, but this education is definitely key. So you can know what you're getting into, what to expect. So that would be really the first step. And I understand that you all get to have different presenters, so probably lenders and things like that. So that would be the first thing, is to get pre-qualified with a lender, and they will pull your credit, help you work out any issues if there are any issues on your credit, tell you exactly how much house you can afford, and then how much are you comfortable purchasing. So they may tell you you can purchase a $400,000 house, but that payment might be $3,000, and these are just random numbers that I'm making up. So you want to make sure that you are comfortable with how much your monthly payment is going to be, because I always encourage people to never buy a house and be house poor, because you want to be able to, I love to travel, I want to go on vacation, I want to be able to go out to dinner, go to the movies, whatever it is. I want to be able to enjoy life and not be looking at sitting in my house stuck like, oh, I have this great house, but I can't do anything else. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable, and also know that once you purchase your home, that's your baby. It's not like renting an apartment or a townhouse or renting anything, because you can't call the landlord and say, hey, my water heater went out, or my toilet stopped up. You have to be prepared to make those repairs. So when you're in the process, you want to be saving money too. And then we also want to find the best loan program for you, because there's a lot of different loan programs and loan products, and there's a lot of different programs for first-time home buyers. And depending by you all working for Duke, you're probably in the medical field or qualify for some things that will be under medical field. I am specifically a workforce housing certified realtor. So clients that work with me that meet the income criteria and guidelines, I'm able to help you to get $1,000 grant that is that you don't have to pay back. So you want to make sure that you're getting the best loan program for you and the best product. Any questions about that? Okay. So we're going to continue on. So we want to identify your needs versus your wants. I tell people my job is to get all of your needs, help you get all of your needs and as many of your wants as you possibly can, because we want you to be happy in the house. So we want to identify that. What type of home are you looking for? Do you want a single family home, townhome? We'll talk about the differences between those and advantages, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, some interior features that you would like some people say, I want wood floors or gas stove and things like that. And although we may not be able to search on them when we're out looking, I can keep in mind that you said, oh, I want, I like an open concept, or I need this or that. And so that helps me when we're actually out looking, even if I can't put them in the search. Where do you want to be? What type of community amenities would you like to have? Do you need to be in a certain school district? I know flexibility now with lotteries and things like that. But do would you like to be close because your child needs to walk to school? Do you want a lot of land, or do you want to not have to do yard work? These are just things that we'll, talk about. And then I will set up a search based on the criteria that you said. Again, I can't search for everything. So some things like, some of the specific things we'll just be looking at. And sometimes we'll be in a house and I'll say, well, it doesn't have this, but that is something that you can change easily. Or it doesn't have this and it will be more challenging to change. So you may want to, keep on looking. So those are just some of the things to think about. So once we have gone through that process, figured out what you want, what you need, then we get the ball rolling and we get to start having fun. We have your search. Ideally, this is just a sample MLS sheet. So when your search is set up, you'll information that you will get about the house. You'll have like all of the details, hopefully lots of pictures, room measurements and things like that. So you can kind of look in there and see, is this what I'm looking for? And I will tell you that we hire professional photographers so we can do a job on houses and making them look great. So they might not look exactly like that. So it's always good to go and take a firsthand look, even though, nowadays people are buying houses sight unseen. I do not recommend that. But that is what people are doing. So once we've set up that search, we're ready to go start looking. Ideally, I tell people I'd like to see 5 to 7 homes initially. Can anybody unmute and talk? I would say that we want you to look at 5 to 7 homes to start out. Anybody? Okay, somebody come in. Okay, well, I'll go ahead. So 5 to 7 homes, because I want you to have an options. I don't want you to pick the first home that you see. That might be the absolute one that you end up getting, but you could go around the corner and down the street and find the exact same home that maybe has some extra feature or a better view or more privacy or whatever. So you can just, see different homes. So that's ideally. Realistically, in this market, we'd be doing good if we can go out to see 2 to 3 at one time, but definitely would like for you to, see more than one home so that you can have an idea, because a lot of times we'll have an idea of what we're looking for, but then we get out and we start looking at things and we see other aspects that might be, something else that we hadn't thought about. Once you find that house, you select your home. In this market, I did this presentation quite a while ago, and I don't want to necessarily change it, but realistically in this market, the first thing I'm going to go back and do is call the listing agent and say, hey, do you have any other offers? If so, what's the offer deadline? And get an idea of what the competition is, because now in this market, when nice homes come on the market that are priced right and look good, you could have 50 offers, literally 10 offers the first day, above list and things like that. So I'm going to ask that agent what's going on, what's the deadline. I'm also going to ask the agent, what are some of the things that the seller finds favorable? Do they want a quick closing date? Do they want to be able to stay after closing? Is just the price and the due diligence? What are the favorable terms for that seller? So that we can take all of that in consideration when we're doing our offer. I'm also going to look to see what the activity in the area is, because just because a seller says that they're listing a price, listing their house at 200,000, maybe it's really not worth 200,000, or maybe it is, and maybe it's worth more, and maybe you have to go a little bit above. So we'll talk about those things and decide on your offer price. And then we'll put together that offer, that 15-page offer, along with any other addenda. Some of the things we'll talk about is, and like I said, in this market, because of the competition, you could very well have to offer above list price. So, and if you offer above list price, that can mean that the house does not appraise. Are you prepared to pay the difference? Because nowadays sellers are not necessarily negotiating if the appraisal comes in lower to reduce that price. So those are things that we're going to talk about, before we're submitting an offer. You want to make sure that you have, money saved up, and we're going to talk about the the purchase, offer to purchase and contract next. So like I said, it itemizes everything. And when I say everything, they literally try to include everything. They list different things that are considered fixtures, that you might ask, that the seller might be planning to take, or that they shouldn't plan to take, just so we know. I mean, even things down to like garage door openers, alarm systems and things like that. That's all itemized in the contract. You put where it's recorded, the legal description, anything that you can think of. And I'm not sure if they were able to share that in the chat, but you'll get a sample contract to take a look at. But who the parties are, the details of the home, what are the financial terms? Are you doing a conventional loan? Are you doing FHA, USDA? What type of loan, or how much down payment? Those types of things. Time frames. How long do you want your due diligence period to be? And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. When are you going to close? All of those time frames, everything is listed in there. Personal property and fixtures. I just mentioned, like, if you want to ask the seller to leave any personal property, the most common personal property is refrigerator, washer, and dryer. But I've had people to ask for living room furniture or things like that. So if you're going to ask them to leave something, you put it in there. Or if the seller is planning to take something that's permanently attached, then you itemize it in here. And it also talks about the buyer and seller responsibilities, that the seller cannot turn the utilities off if they were on when we went to see the house. The seller can't deny you access to do the inspections. As a buyer, you're going to do what you have to do as far as providing your information to the lender, paying any fees that have to be paid, getting your inspections done in a timely manner. So it itemizes just about everything that you can think of. And if it hasn't been there, it'll probably be added soon. And so that's the sample offer to purchase and contract. So like I said, if they weren't able to share it in the chat, hopefully you'll have it soon. And it's fun reading. Expected cost. So this is always a big one. And as people are, preparing to purchase a home, you want to know what are my expected costs. So earnest money and due diligence. So was there somebody coming in with a question? Or somebody just joining in? Okay. So earnest money and due diligence. Earnest money is refundable. It's made payable to a closing attorney, usually is who holds that. It's refundable up until you get to your due diligence date. But the big one nowadays is due diligence. That is the money that is made payable directly to the seller. It is non-refundable. It's what you're giving the seller for taking their house off the market and giving you the opportunity to do inspections and decide if you really want to buy it. In the past, I used to say a combination of 1% was about what I tried to do. But nowadays, with the competition, people are putting down extreme amounts of due diligence. And I said that's non-refundable money. I've heard it as high as $100,000. I'm sure that was well over $1 million house. But even in the $200,000, $300,000 price point, some people are putting down $5,000, $10,000 of due diligence. But that is what you're giving the seller to take their house off the market. They will, take that check and cash it. They can go to the beach or whatever they want to do. You will get credited back for both your due diligence and your earnest money at closing. But if for some reason, either something comes up in the inspection and you don't, you can't come to terms with it to get it, and you feel comfortable moving forward with purchasing the house, or if something happens with your financing, and you don't get the loan, or you just change your mind, you have a change of circumstances, that due diligence belongs to the seller and you would not get that back. The only way, like I said, you get the due diligence back is if you close on the house and get it credited to you. So that's something to think about as you are, saving and preparing to purchase a home. And and one of the things that I do when I'm looking at a home, showing a home, and I know that that's something that you're seriously interested in, is I try to do like a mini inspection. Definitely want to walk around the house, look and make sure we don't see any foundation issues or major cracks or anything like that. Maybe even open and close the windows. We have have something to plug into the outlets, just anything we can see with the naked eye. Look under the sinks, so we can make sure there are not any, any rotten space in the bathroom sink or kitchen sink and things like that. Just things that we can really look at and see up front, so that you can have an idea. I am not an inspector, so I don't when we're looking at the roof, we can kind of look in the crawl space, but you still need to have a professional inspection. But I just want to, kind of look at those basic things so that we can have an idea of what's going on.
We have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Says, who sets the price for the due diligence?
So we determine what we want to offer. The buyer and the agent determine what they want to offer, and we'll take into consideration some of those things I said, as far as are there other offers, and deadlines, and really how much you like the house, what you're willing to risk on that. The seller could come back and say, I love everything about your offer, but can you increase that due diligence? And then you could say yes or no. Did that answer the question? Okay. So yeah, everything is completely negotiable. And so you offer what you feel comfortable with. All right, so down payment and closing costs, those are the other, some additional expenses. So your down payment is, if you're financing your home, say if you're doing an FHA loan, typically the down payment would be 3.5%. They finance 96.5%. So your down payment would be 3.5% of whatever. So if it's a $100,000 house, it would be $3,500. And if you're doing 100% financing, then there is no down payment. If you're doing conventional financing, you might put down 5 or 10 or 20%, just whatever different people want to put down different amounts based on how they're planning out their finances and what they want their mortgage to be and how well they've saved. So the down payment will be determined. You can discuss your lender and how much you need. So you want to make sure you have your savings for your down payment. And then you have closing costs, which is separate. And the closing costs are any of the fees or expenses associated with purchasing a home. So if you're getting a loan, you usually have like a loan origination fee, you have appraisal fees, you have inspections, you have attorney's fees. So it can be any. I tell people that we usually allow about 3% is about what the average closing costs are. So if you're going to a credit union, it may be a little bit less than that. But if you can plan for about 3%. So if you're looking at a $200,000 house, you can gauge $6,000 for closing costs. Some lenders have programs where they will put something towards your closing costs. In the past, sometimes sellers have even paid towards closing costs, but typically right now they will not. So you need to be prepared to pay your closing costs or have some sort of program in place to assist with the closing cost and down payment. So home inspections, you'll have to pay for typically. And again, as a realtor, we cannot make you get a home inspection, but I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage and would probably ask you to put something in writing if you decided that you did not want to do a home inspection, even if it's new construction. Because I use myself as an example. I was a realtor, brand new realtor. I was building my house, and I still to this day feel like if I had had a home inspection during the process, then I would not have the dip in my kitchen floor that I've had since from that. But so home inspections are very important, and they typically need to be paid for at the time of the inspection. And you can have your home inspection, you can have a radon inspection. If you're buying out in the county, you could have a well and septic inspection. So there's lots of different inspections, and you can talk to your realtor about all of those and what would cost. Appraisal, the bank is typically going to collect for the appraisal prior to ordering it so that they can know that will be paid for. And surveys, the survey is for the land, and I strongly, strongly encourage anybody that's buying a home to get a survey, because you want to know for sure, one, that you own the land that they said they're selling, if there's any encroachments, if their fence, the neighbor's fence is on your yard. I had one where somebody was buying in a rural area and they were not going to do an inspection, I mean, a survey. And we kept talking about it, and they did one, and it turned out that the well wasn't on their land. So that was an issue that had to be addressed. So moving expenses. So those are just things that some of the expenses that you want to be prepared for. Now we've gone, go ahead.
Another question, yeah. Can you include the closing cost in the offer to the seller?
You can, but you probably won't get your offer at this point in the market. Your offer would be less likely to be accepted. Some of the things that sellers are going to be looking at, in addition to purchase price, and what they're going to net, is the financial strength of the buyer. Because if you need closing costs and they may not feel like your offer is the strongest one, if they have someone else that is prepared to pay their own closing costs. So you can, but I encourage people to be prepared to pay your own closing costs to be competitive in this market. When we kind of cycle back around, whenever that happens and we're not so much in a seller's market, then sellers may be more willing to pay closing costs. But nowadays they're pretty much, I'm selling this house as is. I know that it needs repairs, and that's just what it is. So, and that, that's something you can talk about a little bit, more one-on-one, what we need. Is that a hand up I see on the iPad, or no? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one more. How much is a survey?
It depends. It can be anywhere from 300 to thousands. It just depends on how much land. And so what I typically do is we give the buyer a couple of survey companies, and you can reach out and get different quotes. So I would say at the very least, for just a small neighborhood loan, or community, maybe $300 to $500, and on up from there. But again, a very good investment. One of the agents with my company, he actually was a buyer's agent, and this particular house used to be like on family property. And after she closed, she found out that she didn't own all of her house, was on somebody else's land. So it's better to deal with it up front and deal with it up front than you're in your house and you own it, and she wouldn't be able to sell that house without getting that address. So any other questions in chat? Okay. So now we're under contract, then we're going to move forward with doing those home inspections. Try to get those done as quickly as possible, because one of the things that sellers are looking at is short due diligence period. And that due diligence period is the time frame that the seller is giving you to do any inspections, to hopefully have your appraisal done so that the value is there, negotiate if they're willing to do any repairs, and things like that. So these are some of the inspections that you'll want to have done, the appraisal. And I will say that sometimes appraisers, they're very, very busy. There's also a lot of refinancing going on. So the appraisers are going out to refinance, give values on homes so that people can refinance, because interest rates are so low. We're going to be doing our negotiations. Your lender is going to be doing their underwriting. And I know you're going to have a lender here, but I'll come and speak to you if you haven't already. But they're going to be looking at every aspect of your life. So avoid large cash deposits, avoid cash app deposits. Anything that you have going on, they are going to want to know why. Why did you have this cash app deposit? Why did you have $500 or whatever? So just be prepared to have your life under a microscope while you're going through that home buying process. So when you get approved or pre-approved, you still want to keep your credit and keep everything clear. They're going to want updated bank statements, check stubs. If you work, I know y'all are working at Duke. I have a situation where I had a nurse and her full-time contract ended. And so she ended up getting 2 part-time nursing contracts. She no longer qualified. So if you have any questions about changes in your life that you're going to make, talk to your realtor. Talk to your realtor first, because we can help you kind of guide through things, because once you tell that lender something, it might be a different situation, and there's not, not trying to be sneaky, but we can help work through the process. So just anything that you're thinking about doing, discuss it with your realtor before you make that move. And just another fact about that, the nurse that, when the contract that she went under contract for $286,000 on new construction. And when they terminated her contract because she couldn't do it, they relisted it at $326. And like overnight, they relisted it for what, $40,000 more. So be ready to make a decision and move quickly on the situation and be steady. So the underwriter is going to be looking at every aspect of your life. Like I said, tax returns, bank statements, check stubs, anything like that. And and insurance, you want to, make sure you don't have a lot of insurance claims. There's so many things. So just discuss those things. Once the underwriter has done their process, then you get your loan approval, and we are ready to go to closing and get your keys. Let's see. And oops, I'll just play this quick testimonial.
So we can open it up now. If there's any questions you have about anything around buying a house, not necessarily just for a real estate agent.
We couldn't hear that testimonial. Sorry, Latrice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was wonderful.
Yes, any questions about, and I know I gave you a lot of information, so I just encourage people to don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't take somebody else's situation as what's going to be your situation. And just, be communicative, and don't be afraid to make your move. So any questions?
I have a question. Right now, it's a seller's market right now. I mean, like, how long does that usually last? Because I've just been, I want to get in the process of buying, but it's like last year, I know a few people that bought homes and it went smooth, and now I know people that are trying to buy now, and it's horrible.
I wish I had a crystal ball that could tell us how much longer it's going to be a seller's market. It's been a seller's market for years now. Yeah, but and this last year has gotten crazier. So unfortunately, I can't say, but I would say don't just try to wait it out, because prices are increasing so significantly. So if you're ready to buy a home and you're ready, then I would say, start the process and let's see what we can find for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
We got a question in chat. What's your email address, or how can I contact you directly?
It is latrice@latrice.biz, and I just put it in chat. And then my direct dial mobile number is 919-730-0803. And I put that in chat as well. Any other questions about anything that I said? And like I said, I know it's a lot of information. I do commend you all for taking this first step and being a part of this group. Clarissa, did you have your hand up?
I did. I thought I heard you say something about being a workforce realtor who had some money to share with homebuyers, and I'm surprised nobody asked me that.
Yes, I am a workforce housing certified realtor, and that just means that for anyone that works in the medical field, education, it's one other, doctors, first responders, then meet the income criteria, which is actually pretty generous through North Carolina Housing. Then you would be eligible to just receive $1,000 grant just because I'm your realtor. Oh yeah, easy $1,000.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to say that it's very valuable to have a realtor who has money and experience knowing how to find other sources of money, because your realtor is helping you buy the house, not just looking for a house. And so a realtor, knows lenders, they know programs that are available that you can use for the down payment and closing costs. They can help you find a good inspector and other inspectors if you need them, like, if you have a well and septic system, those kinds of things. So you definitely want your realtor beside you from the very first time you go out shopping to, to when you actually close on the house.
And someone asked if there's a time limit for the $1,000. No, there's no time limit. There are some programs that they may run out of funding towards the end of the year, but as far as I've learned with this program, I have not known it to run out of funding. So, and that's one more thing that I didn't talk about is when, depending on what type of loan, we need to know what type of house you can get. So some people may want to do a fixer upper, but if you're doing some sort of down payment assistance or first time home buyer, CPLP, there's certain guidelines that you have to, know what you're looking for with those when you're purchasing a house, and making sure you match that with the loan. Any other questions? Well, if anybody does have questions, I did put my information in the chat, and I know that Larissa has it. And I don't know if you have everything online with the different realtors and information, but I'm definitely open to answering any questions.
I'll send out the contacts for Latrice and a couple of other realtors who we've worked with for many years. We always try to refer people to at least 3, yes, because that's gives you choices.
Absolutely. And actually, Larissa, I'm going to send you an updated contract because we had some changes as of July 31st. So I'll send that to you to send out.
Thank you.
If you can include me on that email too, I can get it attached to the video when we upload it.
Okay. Can you send me your email address, or is it on the?
Sure.
Okay.
Put it in the chat.
Okay. All right. No other questions?
So are there any questions about anything about home buying?
I have one question.
Yeah,
What if you just want to buy land and build a house on it?
cool. That's a whole nother ball game. So that option, you have to be, obviously you need to be definitely financially strong with that, because it's a lot of different moving parts to that. As far as like, if you buy the land, do you have a lien on it? Working with a builder and a contractor, you can do it, but you just it's a process. And I would say let's talk one-on-one about it. But it can be done, but it is a process.
Okay, but what if it's a modular type home, which is a little bit lesser in amount?
So there are companies that do the modular homes, and I would say let's work directly with the modular home person, because then the other thing you have to consider land is it clear? Do you have to clear it? Is there water and sewer available? Are there restrictive covenants that would prevent you from putting a modular home on it? So in those cases, I usually would work with you to work with a modular home company so that we can make sure that we're getting the best, finding land that works. Because the last thing you want to do is buy some land and then find out that you can't do what you need to do. So, and there's so much research that can go into the land process.
Okay. One more question. How would you find out what the restrictions is on that land that you want to buy?
There should be restrictive covenants recorded somewhere. And then also you can reach out to the city to get the zoning.
Okay.
for it, but so it's zoning and then it's restrictive covenants. So zoning can be residential, but the restrictive covenants can say no modular or manufactured homes.
Okay.
Or how, and then you
Latrice,
need, Mhm.
Latrice, this is Angela.
Yes, ma'am.
If the land is considered rural USDA, they will help you that if you plan on building it on the land, but it has to be considered rural in order for the USDA program to work.
Right. And there's a website that you can go to see if it's USDA eligible, because that is one type of financing that's available in that building on it. So yeah, then you need to know the work, because if it's not city water and sewer available, can you put a well? How much of a sewer? So it's a lot to consider. And that's why I would, if you were looking at a modular home, I would want to work closely with a modular company so that we can make sure we don't miss anything in that case.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, well, I'm here if you, and there's no stupid question. I always ask your questions because
I guess we want to follow up on the USDA because that is one of the most affordable loans. And if you are a below the 80% of the area median income, which for one person is 48,400 in Durham, although there's not much rural land, but any metro area like Durham, Orange County has more rural land, I think, and Chatham County are part of our metro area. And then if you go to the Raleigh metro area, there's actually a lot of rural land in Wake County, Johnston County, Franklin County. And those metro areas, they even have a higher income limit where you can still use the USDA Direct, where you go directly to the USDA office, like for Durham, the office is up in Henderson, I believe, or Granville County. And they'll work with you to help you get that loan affordable if you're below 80% of area median income. And I know Angela knows more than I do about the details, but I do have a lot of home buyers who find it hard to afford a home in the city of Durham, and they're going, around Durham to find a more rural area and use USDA.
It depends on how long that repossession, how long ago it can, but it depends on how long. And I guess I would let Larissa or Angela talk to that part on the credit.
Yeah, with the repo, as long as it's been more than 2 years with USDA. And a lot of times it depends upon what the amount is. And it also depends upon the lender. But with USDA, if you had a repo, as long as it's been more than 2 years, you don't have to pay it.
But don't let that stop you from at least starting the process and finding out what each lender will require.
And Angela, is that USDA that the bankers do? Will they also overlook a repossession after 2 years, or is it only USDA Direct that does that?
No, it depends upon the lender. And I know with self-help credit union, as long as it's been more than 2 years, it do not have to be repaid. So it depends upon the lender. And like I said, that's where the credit counseling come in at. So based on which programs, what you're trying to do, we'll try to point you in the right direction.
Right. So the lenders can give you a USDA loan, not directly from USDA. So they just use their own underwriting
Guidelines.
Yes. And so you may get a better deal from USDA Direct if you're lower income. If you're higher income, then you would go to a bank or credit union.
With the percentage for student, yeah, I don't know if it was for all loans. I know that FHA did make some changes that were more favorable to make it easier for student loan purchases, but I don't know. what all of the criteria were. And I think conventional loans were not as bad or as stringent as FHA anyway.
Yes, the conventional loans, the loans that the banks offer and credit unions too, they generally look at whatever your payment is for your student loan. They don't necessarily have to use a percentage of the balance of your student loans, which is FHA still using the 1%? Is that correct?
Some recent changes that were, I don't think so. Like, I think, and I don't quote me on it, but I want to say now they will take what your payment is as long as it's not zero. But I do know that they had some recent changes that make it more affordable and more reasonable than what it was with that 1%.
That's what it was. It was if there was a zero payment. Sometimes you would have to like get a payment in order to get the loan you want. So there's ways to work, with your lender. They know how to help you qualify. That's their job. But a realtor can also advise you on strategies.
Right. And work with. I mean, it's important for your realtor and your lender to work together. It's because they may think of something that I don't think of, or I might think of something that they don't think of, to help us get over a hurdle. And inevitably there's going to be a hurdle, so don't be discouraged by hurdles. Just prep up and be ready to jump over them.
And Angela and I and Rosa as well, we're all 3 housing counselors, so we're helping people with credit. And then we also want to work with your realtor. We want to work with your lender, especially if you're using one of the special programs. There's one for low-income home buyers for $30,000. It's a loan, but at 0 interest, and you don't have to make any payments while you're paying your first mortgage. But that's where we really have to work together to make sure that you meet all the rules and the house meets all the rules, so you can get that $30,000, because that could get you a house that you might not have been able to afford otherwise.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll have one of those closing in 2 weeks.
All right.
Any other questions from anybody?
Well, I'm going to put one last thing in here, and I put it in the emails that you should have all gotten from me before this. Rolando Catalan is our new intake specialist. Rosa was. Now Rosa's been promoted to being a counselor.